gracias. Happy almost Valentine's Day. And happy Sports Day to those who celebrate either or both. It's a ball game of sorts. I don't know who's playing, but I just hope both teams have fun. They're playing. They're playing. There needs to be more play in the world. So as we settle into what is our second service of the month of February with the theme of love, please take a moment to silence your phones so that we can be more present with each other and less distracted by our devices. And also by request of the greeters, who are so awesome, and I want to do what they ask. They help folks find seating. So they wanted to remind you that stuff on the seat next to you implies that you're holding that seat, and that's okay if you want to do that. But you know, if you can, put your seat on your stuff under your seat, and also consider scooching to the center of your row so you're freeing up aisle seats to better accommodate those of us less fortunate in the parking lottery that is what we do every morning here at UUCM. So I want to wait just a second while Marilyn gets on because she needs to hear this. Okay. So again, I don't want to, tell you where to sit or what to do, but just keep in mind that it's hard to find parking, and maybe they got here on time and they just couldn't get into the building. So, no shame. My name is Beth Caro, and I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains here in Grass Valley, California, and on Zoom in the wider world. And speaking of Zoom, Reverend Onnie is in the virtual pulpit this morning. So she joins us from her home as the interim minister. Toby Thomas Rose is our not interim minister, I used the wrong word, sabbatical minister. Thank you. Toby Thomas Rose is our music director. Aiden and Joe Waters are heading up the Kids Connection. Eileen Hale is holding the Zoom space for us. We have a great AV team as well. We're in good hands, friends. So come, let us worship together.
These black oak acorns were a staple of the Nisenan people who lived here for countless generations. Just as our black oaks endure here still, we place this basket of their acorns on our altar to acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us. Even today, although very invisible, if you walk down the street and pass some of our neighbors who are Nisenan, you wouldn't know, but they're here, invisible after years of erasure and exclusion from California's history. We're working together to change that. We understand that this land was never ceded, never given up, and the original tribal families are yet to recover from the genocide of their people. We at UUCM commit to supporting the Nisenan people in their efforts to stabilize their people and to restore their federal tribal sovereignty.
As you're willing and able, please stand for our opening hymn, There Is More Love Somewhere. It's number 95 in the hymnal, which hymnals are over there if you need them, but the words will be on the screen.
I'm the Reverend Janet Onnie, the sabbatical minister, holding the place of Reverend Kevin Tarsa for this.
You're muted, Jan.
No, I'm not. Not on my screen. Okay, let's start again. I'm the Reverend Janet Onnie, the sabbatical minister, holding the place of Reverend Kevin Tarsa for this Unitarian Universalist community of the mountains in Grass Valley, California. Whoever you are, whatever your skin color, whatever your gender identification or sexual preference, whatever your cultural identity, economic status, physical or mental abilities, or any other identity that has kept you from revealing your whole self, you are welcome to make a home in this time and space. In solidarity with the indigenous peoples across the United States, I acknowledge the land on which I make my home is the home of the Monacan Indian Nation, one of the few Native American groups still residing in their ancestral homeland of 10,000 years. They are recognized as one of the 7 indigenous tribes of the state of Virginia. In continuing recognition of Black History Month, we are using the words and music created by African Americans as we explore our theme of love throughout the month. Today, we will hear stories of parental love. Beginning with the love of a grandmother for a child, we move into the hearing of the cost of love when tragedy strikes, and the power of love to strengthen individuals and communities in the aftermath.
In the flush of love's light, we dare to be brave. And suddenly we see that love costs all we are and will ever be. Yet it is only love which sets us free.
And you're welcome to light your home chalices at this time, if you have them and want to light them. There we go. I set up this altar at the beginning of the month with the intention of it growing and changing throughout the month. The leather apron that Rev Jan spoke of so beautifully, reminding her of her grandfather's apron last week. It's represented here. And there are some more objects, and I'm sure by next week there'll be even more. So you are all welcome. I want to remind you to put your objects of love that remind you of love anytime on this altar. Today, I'm going to add a few more pieces, 3 to be exact, 3 necklaces to be even more exact. All loved by me, yes, but also all are symbols to me personally of love. The first was my great grandmother's, Bertie Mae Wheelock. Oh, she was a character, and she got mad at my mom that she didn't name me Bertie Mae. So, you know, thanks, Mom. Hi, I'm Bertie Mae Caro. I'm your worship associate. Okay, anyway, she and my great-grandfather had a daily ritual of cocktails with Lawrence Welk on the hi-fi, records, and watching the sun set into the ocean from their home in Solana Beach, bright pink home, I should mention. As a sometimes overlooked girl in a family with 3 brothers, I loved spending time at her house. She made me feel special. We would try on her fancy hats, and I'd smear her solid perfume on my wrists, and I'd investigate all her trinkets and treasures that she had displayed. And whenever I told her that I really loved something of hers, she'd tell me very matter-of-factly, "Oh, well, you can have it when I die." Which I thought was really morbid and very weird, but I get it now. Anyway, this necklace, she wore it often, and I just loved it. It was Birdie Mae's necklace, and she claimed it was real turquoise from the real Indians. But I'm pretty sure, I'm sure it's just fake costume jewelry. And that's actually totally fine by me. It doesn't have to be real to be real. I actually can't remember the exact moment that it came to be mine, but I do know that she loved it and she loved me too, and she wanted me to have it. And I love it too, and I love her, and maybe someday I'll pass it on to a beloved descendant. The second necklace is this one. Also a magnificent example. Oh, sorry. Yeah, good. Okay, a magnificent example of the gaudiest of gaudy costume jewelry. I'm aware that this is tacky. I bought it in a thrift store one day. I really love it. Not just for its tacky brilliance, which is over the top, but the story that I made up around it, which goes something like this. Their mom died. And when her adult kids were going through her belongings and sorting out who was going to take what and adding to the pile of stuff to take to hospice thrift store, they were talking, they were laughing, they were crying and sharing memories about their beloved mother. And then someone pulls this out, and they all have a great laugh through their tears about just how tacky there was, and maybe how much mom loved it. She loved it, you can tell, because she didn't wear it. It's still very new. She saved it for special times. Of course, none of her kids wanted it, so they gave it to hospice, and I ended up buying it. And I wear it in her honor, whoever she was. Maybe it was too special to wear, yes, but maybe there just weren't enough special times for her. I don't know. But in honor of what is precious, what is held on to, and what is given away, love. And lastly, this wild piece of wackiness I bought just this last December at a tiny folk art gallery in Akumal, Mexico. I adored it from the minute I saw it, but I easily talked myself out of buying it because I think it's pretty obvious that I have a plenty of goofy necklaces. You might say I have a plethora of fancy necklaces, but it's very rare for me to buy any jewelry, especially new, never worn before, not thrift store stuff. So I left it hanging there. But I went back the next day because I couldn't stop thinking about it. A handcrafted, rainbow, splashy, sparkly, heavily beaded, satin pillow puffed, bright pink tasseled heart. Perfect. I might just love this one the best because it's a gift that I gave to myself, and I get to make my own story about it. I'm not yet sure what that will be, but I know what it's about. Love. And now we have a story and a song about a grandmother's love.
Hi, I'm Tia Mori. And I'm Tamir Mori from Sister Sister. Welcome to the Screen Actors Guild Foundation Book Pals. And today we're going to be reading No Mirrors in My Nana's House. You know, Tamir, when I was first introduced to this book, I was very intrigued by the title, No Mirrors in My Nana's House. And I actually, had to ask myself, how would this world or how would our, society actually be without any mirrors? I mean, would there be any stereotypes? I liked the book because I thought it sounded like a song and it kind of had a wonderful rhythm to it. So I'm very excited. I think it's very colorful and fun. And the author of the book is Issei Barnwell, and the illustrations and paintings are by Cynthia St. James. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in my Nana's house. So the beauty that I saw in everything, the beauty in everything was in her eyes, like the rising of the sun. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in my Nana's house. So I never knew that my skin was too black. I never knew that my nose was too flat. I never knew that my clothes didn't fit. I never knew there were things that I missed. 'Cause the beauty in everything was in her eyes, like the rising of the sun. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in my Nana's house. I was intrigued by the cracks in the wall. I tasted with joy the dust that would fall. The noise in the hallway was music to me. The trash and the rubbish just cushioned my feet. And the beauty in everything was in her eyes, like the rising of the sun was in her eyes. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in my Nana's house. The world outside was a magical place. I only knew love, and I never knew hate. And the beauty in everything was in her eyes, like the rising of the sun. Child, look deep into my eyes. Child, look deep into my eyes. Child, look deep into my eyes. Remember in the beginning when I told you this book reminded me of a song? Actually, it was inspired by a song. And the author, Issei Barnwell, she's in a group called Sweet Honey in the Rock. And now we get to listen to them sing. No mirrors in my Nana's house.
There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in my Nana's house. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in my Nana's house. And the beauty that I saw in everything, the beauty in everything, yeah, was in her eyes. Like the rising of the sun was in her eyes. I'm telling you, there were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in the house. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in the house. I never knew that my skin was too black, and I never knew that my nose was too flat, and I never knew that my clothes didn't fit, and I never knew there were things that I'd miss, 'cause the beauty in everything, yeah, was in her eyes, like the rising of the sun was in her eyes. Oh, there were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in my Nana's in the house. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in the house. I was intrigued by the cracks in the wall. The dust in the sun looked like snow that would fall. The noise in the hallway was music to me. The trash and the rubbish would cushion my feet. And the beauty in everything, yeah, was in her eyes. Like the rising of the sun was in her eyes. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in my Nana's house. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. No mirrors in the house. The world outside was a magical place. I only knew love and I didn't know hate. And the beauty in everything, yeah, was in her eyes. Like the rising of the sun was in her eyes. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house. beauty in everything, yeah, was in her eyes. Like the light of the sun was in her eyes. Child, deep into my eyes, and the 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 child.
Wow. That was incredible. That was
I loved it.
beautiful. Oh,
You know, in a way, it made the book come alive to me.
yeah, it really
Like,
did. It
after
touches
reading
you
it-
right here in the heart, in the soul. It was very beautiful.
Well, I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. And thanks for watching. Bye.
Okay, with as much harmony as we just experienced, pick your own key. Let's sing the children on their way. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. There is a comfort to be had in participating in simple rituals that hold meaning and return us again and again to what we have known. And for so many of us at UUCM, one of the most important and meaningful is the quiet ritual of bringing forth what is most pressing on our hearts and present in our minds, and carrying it with us up the center aisle and selecting a stone to represent our concern, and then placing it into the bowl of water, symbolizing our caring community. As the stones sink and the ripples extend, our joys and our sorrows blend together in the soothing water contained in the bowl, the strong walls of our church, and the love with which we hold each other. During the music, while some in the building here may choose to come forward, those on Zoom may choose to type into the chat what they are holding today. Lay pastoral care team member and musician extraordinaire, Tom Wernig, will join me here. And whether or not you come forward to place a stone, please keep this a sacred silence time as you hold and are held by this loving community. We place the last stones to represent all that remains in the quiet of our hearts, perhaps too tender to surface at this time. We lit these candles on our altar for the earthquake victims and their families in Turkey and Syria. And overnight, 5,000 more people were added to the death toll. It's up to 30,000 so far, with an estimated 23 million people who will be impacted by this disaster. And for the heroes, the helpers, and the healers.
As we prepare to join our hearts together in silence, hear the words of Reverend Ann Barker. When we heard the news, saw the wreckage, felt the paralyzing blow, our hearts broke open and spilled out into our hands. And there we were, watching our love seep between our fingers, watching our fragile love pour out all over us, watching our love seem to slip away. When we heard the news, our hearts broke open, spilled into our hands, and we stared at love, lamenting, what am I to do with this? And with these raw and tender yearnings, we will beat after precious beat, seek wholeness once again. Our hearts broke open, and the love that is still true draws us one again together, story by story, step by step, into places of tender knowing, remembering to restore us, mend us, piece by broken piece. This is the love that runs between us, sustaining force of restoration, the love that nourishes and feeds us, binds us, each to our collective core. Love will repair us, not the same, but stronger in some places, honoring memories like treasures, living out our lives' potential in the shadow of the trespass, in the warmth of one another, in light of what? Restored, we will become. Let us take a few moments in silence. Blessed be, and amen. At times, even blessings will bleed us. There are some who lost their lives and those who are lost from ours, who we might now re-enter, all our someones summoned softly. The closest we get to time travel is our fears softening, our hurts unclenching, as we become more akin to kin, as we return to who we were before we actually were anything or anyone. That is when we were born unhating and unhindered, howling wetly with everything we could yet become. To travel back in time is to remember when all we knew of ourselves was love. Love is appropriate theme for the month of February. And here we are, 2 days away from the distribution of heart-shaped balloons and cookies and flowers and hopefully boxes of chocolate. Love, romantic love is in the air. I know people who once a year change their ringtones to the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. I have always been slightly befuddled by this sentiment. It was the same sort of general discomfort manifesting itself as annoyance I felt at the Hallmark sentiments on Mother's Day, Father's Day, Grandparents' Day, and all the other days. Too often, these Hallmark holidays excuse perfectly awful behavior toward the one who being honored the rest of the year. But I generally exempt Valentine's Day from my bashing of Hallmark holidays because it has a long history. You former Catholics were taught that Valentine's Day is celebrated in the middle of February to commemorate the anniversary of St. Valentine's death or burial, which probably occurred around AD 270. Others claim that the Christian Church may have decided to place St. Valentine's feast day in the middle of February in an effort to Christianize the pagan celebration of Lupercalia. Lupercalia was a fertility festival, which is not exactly the same as a love fest. Several years ago, I learned the fun fact that Valentine's greetings were popular as far back as the Middle Ages, although written Valentines didn't begin to appear until after 1400. The oldest known Valentine still in existence today was a poem written in 1415 by Charles, Duke of Orleans, to his wife while he was imprisoned in the Tower of London. Chaucer mentioned it, and Sam Weller in Dickens' The Pickwick Papers bought a Valentine for the object of his affection. All these loves are lovely, but there are a lot of definitions of love. What are we talking about? Love is much larger and harder than what we mean when we say, I love my new car, or I loved my trip to Europe, or I love my job. I still like the Apostle Paul's definition in the letter he wrote to the squabbling church of Corinth, probably around 50 AD. In it, he describes the reverse of the proud, contemptuous, divisive spirit manifested in the behavior of some of the members of that congregation. Paul wrote, and I'm sure you've heard this, love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. So when the Beatles sing, there's nothing you can make that can't be made, no one you can save that can't be saved. It's easy. All you need is love. I bristle. There's nothing easy about it. Ask anyone who's been in any sort of a relationship. And there are times in everyone's life when love is not enough to save someone or to save yourself. Last week, we talked about love manifested in objects. Every time I see a leather apron or a cow, I think of my grandfather. Today, I want us to consider supportive love. The love of a sort where Nana had no mirrors in her house, so her grandchild could develop her own sense of self without the judgment of others. The sort of love manifested by your lay pastoral care team. Love that exists between individuals, yes, but also love exhibited by a community. Back in 2010, I heard this story from one of my mentors who gave me permission to recount it this morning. She said, I have always deeply feared motorcycles for the sake of their riders. I recognize the attraction, the excitement, but one of my brothers was nearly killed when he fell trying to avoid a dog that was chasing him. That was the beginning of my fear, and I didn't hesitate to tell my children about it, to no avail, as I expected. Both my sons rode, and my daughter was more than occasionally a passenger. Then 14 years ago, my youngest was giving a ride to a friend's girlfriend who wanted to see what it was like. He was showing off, going a little too flamboyantly around a curve, and there was sand in the road. She was killed. Although neither the authorities nor his friend held him accountable, he himself took full responsibility for the tragedy, knowing that if he hadn't been playing the cowboy, he could have avoided the accident. He will live with that sense of guilt for the rest of his life. I was shocked at my own callousness, she continued to say. I was too grateful that he was still alive to grieve for the girl or her parents or her 2 children and fiancé. My horror was for him, for his grief and shame. He told me he had considered suicide and had decided that that would simply make things worse for everyone else. And that although he would, in those circumstances, no longer have to think about it, it would not, could not change the reality or atone for it. My mentor admitted she was proud of him. She went on to say, I was also more frustrated than I have ever been and hope never to be again. There was absolutely nothing I could do to ease his pain. It didn't matter how much I loved him, how much I wanted to. I could take none of his grief and shame on my own shoulders. I would have given anything at all to be able to do that, to relieve him even a little of the agony that I knew he would feel all his life. I could not. It was his own and would remain his own. The inadequacy, the futility of love to bridge this separation was clear. I heard this story 18 years ago. In November 2017, I got word that her son, this same son, had died. He died as a result of alcoholism or from a drug overdose, maybe both, that doesn't really matter. He died because he was unable to make the long climb from blaming himself to forgiving himself. He was dearly loved and supported by his family and the many friends that showed up at his funeral. But their love was not enough. Not enough to save him. There is not enough love in the world to save someone who cannot begin to forgive theirself. Nor is there enough love to prevent tragedies, large and small. If you engage with life long enough, you will encounter a situation where human love is not enough to bring you back to the person you were. Time is parceled into the before and after. Those of you who have experienced the death of a beloved know the truth of this. Of some comfort is knowing that death comes to everything and everyone. There is nothing you can do to prevent it. Your involvement in the natural order of things does not require self-forgiveness, except to the extent you choose to blame yourself for what you did or didn't do to prolong or hasten the process. But the inevitability of death aside, stuff happens. Stuff happens that neither patience, kindness, humility, flexibility, cheerfulness, or truthfulness can deflect. I'm thinking now of my grandnephew, Gabe. Gabe was the son of my niece, Judy, and her wife, Liz, Gabe's birth mother. About age 3, Gabe had been taken to the hospital, and the early diagnosis was a seizure disorder. The cause was unknown. 3 weeks later, he was placed in a medically induced coma. As time dragged on, the mom's friends set up a fund to help financially when their family leave, medical leave, and vacations from their very good jobs ran out. The money poured in, and my sister wrote, "Thank you will never be enough to express our abiding love for you all. You are our silver lining." Bad went to worse for the next 2 years. His mother wrote, "I am altered and scarred, but through it all, one thing is most clear, that in the darkest of times, tenderness has tethered us to hope. Gentleness and patience from Gabe's doctors and nurses, from our friends and families, and even from strangers have kept us from drowning. Simple words of love and caring sustain us. All in all, we are getting through with the intense and unending supply of support from our family and friends. We love you." The last time I saw Gabe, he was an infant in a 4-year-old body, back in diapers, unable to walk or feed himself or form words, a survivor of countless invasive surgeries, totally reliant on the skill and care of others for his very survival. Love was not able to save him from an extremely rare disease. Love did not assure he would ever recover who he was. Love was not enough to keep that small family from shattering when he died. Loving the stranger that looked like their little boy was anything but easy. But here's the thing about love. It bears all things, believes all things, endures all things, and hopes all things. Love hopes, even though it is by no means enough to restore the before it happened relationships. There is a love which is utterly futile to change things, to help another person, even to bridge our existential loneliness. Yet, with its cold edge, love sears meaning into our loneliness through the love we give, rather than that which we are given. The love you've expended toward the loved one comes back to you through the love of others. The love you've expended toward the loved ones comes back to you through the love of others. Or, in the words of Paul McCartney, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. I've witnessed the truth of this, and I would add that there is also a type of love called grace that comes unbidden and throws McCartney's equation. I cannot explain it except to say that it appears to have nothing to do with human action or intention. It appears whether or not I have taken the love I've earned or given all the love of which I'm capable. Grace tilts the equation to the love taken from somewhere transcending human community. All of us have tender stories like the ones I've shared with you this morning. Heartbreak is an essential part of what it means to be human. We all desperately try to shield ourselves from it, to keep ourselves safe. We plan. We take out insurance. We brush our teeth, have annual physicals, look both ways before crossing the street, and install smoke detectors instead of mirrors in our houses. But there it is. Love happens, bound and intertwined with our love. Life happens, bound and intertwined with our love. It's bound up with those moments when we feel cut off from that love. In fact, we can predict that heartbreak will visit us all. What we cannot predict is what we will do with it. What will we do with our heartbreak? Will we retreat into ourselves? Will we become embittered? Will we look for someone or something to blame? Or will we grasp the outstretched hands and walk through the valley of the shadow together? Love may not be enough to save us from whatever tragedy befalls us, but the power of love is enough to propel us from the before into the future. May it be so always and forever. Amen.
The offering collected each week is a beautiful reminder of the love of our community, how individual contributions combine into something more than the sum of its parts. How by working together, combining our talents, treasure, and time, we strengthen our ability to fulfill our mission. 25% of what is collected in the baskets and 100% of what is placed into the white envelopes will be shared with a local nonprofit. This month, our Share the Plate partner is Community Beyond Violence, whose mission is to offer resources for building healthy relationships and to work with community partners to provide services for healing the effects of interpersonal violence. Greeters, please come forward to collect the offering while we hear of other ways to give.
Your generosity remains essential to our ability to sustain the work of our community. There are several ways to contribute. You may text an amount to 833-579-0483, give via our website at uugrassvalley.org, via PayPal at paypal.me/UUCM, or mail to UUCM 246 South Church Street, Grass Valley, California, 95945. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your generosity. We uplift and dedicate these gifts to the vision of a world where love does not hurt, but heals. Well, it's time for the thank yous. Thank you to Gail for stepping in. Tracy had a funeral to attend. Tom, thank you for reading, for playing an awesome concert last night, and for being here with our lay pastoral care team. Toby Thomas Rose and Melanie DeMore were our musicians. Carol oh my goodness. Carol Fulkerson and Mary Lindsay worked on the slides. The AV team, Siobhan Boylan behind the scenes late at night, amazing. Andy Dooley Miller, yay. Bob Miller, not related, yay. Eileen, thank you for being our chat host week after week. You're awesome. And she needs some help, so step in if you can. George Dunstan, Gail Johnson, production crew. Shanti Emerson gave her beautiful touch to our altar this week. We had Lori Bell, Jean Gilligan, and Carl. I missed the L. It's like Carl Snyder. Beth Rose and Lori Bell are helping with refreshments, and Aiden McCarthy and Joe Waters. I went to the Kids Connection today. I think I got everybody. There's our staff. Yeah, that's it. And then we've got announcements. I'm not going to read all that because you can see it. So we got our book group coming up today at 12:30. Oh my goodness, and a cute kitty. And then we got the buildings and grounds on Saturday. It should be nice, and we need some help. So come on out. You can contact that website there. Stop the Mind. That's today. No, sorry, next week. Charlie Brock is going to speak. Oh my goodness. Everything is on the website, so you should go to the website. UU101 also next week. If you're interested in learning more about what UU is, you don't have to be new. You can renew, you can learn more. It's a great class. All of our, like I said, all of our information is on the website, and it's really easy and user-friendly to click around on. So go ahead and visit if you haven't recently. You can learn about Sunday services, etc. But now, if you're willing and able, rise and let's sing Love Will Guide Us.
We all emerge from dwell within, are transformed by and called back to love. May your mind be humbled before this majesty and mystery. May your heart grow hopeful by it. May you be sustained by this love, always.
So we extinguish our chalice now. We know that we will carry the peace and love until we meet again. So mote it be. Please join us in the back for refreshments. Thank you. See you next week.